The 60s in America had been a day in the sun, but then night came. The decade ended with the deaths of Malcolm X, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Roman Polanski's wife, Sharon Tate, and their friends. 400 colleges protested against the Vietnam War. In cinema, the Hollywood studio system came to an end. So come the new dawn, the 70s, you'd think that movies in America would be slumped in the corner, but you'd be wrong. The rising sun of the new decade brought fresher air and new honesty. The explicitly personal filmmaking of the 60s and a film school awareness of European cinema and film history gathered momentum and gained confidence. The garden started to bloom again. The new American cinema, as it came to be called, fell into 3 separate types. Satirical movies made by people like this man, Buck Henry, that mocked society and their times. Dissident films made by people like Charles Burnett that challenged the conventional style in cinema. And assimilationist movies made by Robert Towne and others, in which old studio genres were reworked with new techniques. First, the mockery. Many in the counterculture in America in the 60s and 70s thought it's too late to salvage society, so let's satirize it. And so they did. American movies had satirized society for decades. Here in the Marx Brothers film Duck Soup, made in 1933, people wait for Rufus T. Firefly, the president of Fredonia, to arrive at the top of the stairway. But he comes in from the bottom.
You expecting somebody?
Yes.
A topsy-turvy world. Come the 60s, psychologist R.D. Laing's suggestion that sanity is a bit insane, and vice versa, made the world feel even more like a Marx Brothers movie. So it's no surprise to find that Frank Tashlin, Buck Henry, Robert Altman, and Milos Forman brought new satirical bite to American film. Tashlin found consumerism vulgar and offensive to his gentle eye, so made lurid films like this one, which looked like a cartoon. Its colour, style, and happiness were meant to show that society is fake and manic and infantile.
Demonstrating a new sign.
Oh, Mr. Kelly, watch it!
He made a brilliant kids' book that tells of a happy possum that's hanging in a tree. Passers-by see the possum, but they mistake his smile for a frown because he's hanging upside down. They then take him on a tour into the city through the air to make him happy, to give him an adventure. He sees the world and doesn't like it. It's scary and crumbling. Eventually the people return him to his tree. They're pleased. He looks to them like he's smiling. But of course, as he's upside down, he's really frowning. A lovely parable about upside downness. The great French playwright Feydeau said that in order to be funny, you need to think sad first. Buck Henry is one of American cinema's masters of the upside down, of satire. Henry's adaptation of Joseph Heller's novel Catch-22, directed by Mike Nichols, is one of the great movie satires. It's World War II. Bomber pilot Yossarian, on the right here, tries to get out of flying. This scene, which gives the film and the novel its title, explains why.
You want to be grounded? That's all. And then you can ground him.
No, then I cannot ground him. There's a catch.
A catch?
Sure, catch 22. Anyone who wants to get out of combat isn't really crazy, so I can't ground him.
Okay, let me see if I got this straight. In order to be grounded, I've got to be crazy. And I must be crazy to keep flying. But if I ask to be grounded, that means I'm not crazy anymore and I have to keep flying.
You've got it. That's catch 22. That's some catch like catch 22.
Yossarian's world is upside down.
Like you. Like us. Well, you'll be surprised how easy it is to like us once you begin. You see, Yossarian, we're going to put you on Easy Street.
I'm going to promote you to major.
We're going to give you another medal.
I'm going to glorify your exploits, send you home a hero.
You'll have parades in your honor.
You can make speeches, raise money for war bonds.
And all you have to do is be our pal.
Say nice things about us.
Tell the folks at home what a good job we're doing.
Henry not only wrote the film, but here acted in it too.
Take our offer, Yossarian.
That brilliant exchange, which is Joe Heller's, of "We want you to like us," is one of the, I think, great pieces of American character. You know, we're going to chop your children into little bits and feed them to the fish, but basically what we want is for you to like us. It's very, very... that's the reason a lot of people didn't like the movie. They perceived it as being anti-American or un-American.
Orson Welles plays General Dreedel.
If you've got any sense, when you hire Orson to play a part in your movie, you have already determined that he will be the center of something. And not necessarily good or detrimental, but he will be a force field. Orson did something I've never seen an actor do. We're out there doing the long scene where naked Yossarian gets the medal from the general for doing everything wrong. Orson says to Nichols, "You know something in this exchange, Mike, I know you hear it exactly the way you want to hear it. Why don't you just stand where you are and give me each line as it comes up, and I will do it exactly the way you give it to me." So that whole exchange, it's Orson copying exactly what Mike says for every line. I mean, that's so fabulous. Well, one, I know he was up all night drinking cognac. So there wasn't a lot of time for memorizing lines. I don't think he ever did, except maybe one line at a time. They were all wonderful.
If he wants to receive a medal without any clothes on, what the hell business is it of yours?
It's my sentiments, exactly, sir.
Here's your medal, Captain. You're a very weird person, Yossarian.
Thank you, sir.
An actor will do anything to avoid seeming to copy anyone else. Don't give me that line. Just tell me the sense of what you know. And in this turnabout, I thought, well, that's great. He's saving time, and he's doing it exactly the way Mike hears it.
Yeah, now come on.
Catch-22 came out at the same time as Robert Altman's film, MASH.
You're going to go to sleep.
Another war. Army surgeons operating on appalling injuries. But Altman's approach is innovative. He fills the screen with actors, mics them all up, records all their dialogue at the same time, then mixes a complicated soundtrack of overlapping dialogue. The fact that they're wearing masks here means we can't see their lips, so he has even more freedom. And though the situation is tragic, the attitude is light-hearted, mocking even an upside-down world.
Okay, Ugly, move out of the way because I'm looking around over there. Baby, we're going to see some stitches like you never saw before.
Attention, attention.
Okay,
This
here
is
she
from
goes.
Colonel Blake's office. The American
They're off
Medical
and running.
Association has just declared marijuana a dangerous drug. Despite earlier claims by some physicians that it is no more harmful than alcohol, this is now found to be the case. That is all.
And because Altman used zooms and long lenses, actors weren't even sure if they were on camera or not.
Hey, Diego Redo! Hi, just in time for cocktails. Come on in. No, thank you. I can't, really. Hawkeye. Hawkeye? Could I speak to you?
The satirical tone for such films was set by Buck Henry's adaptation of the novel The Graduate. It was a massive hit around the world. This student, Benjamin, floats in the California blue swimming pool of his bourgeois LA parents, a world of beer and boredom. He's expressionless, inert. Benjamin has an affair with one of his parents' friends.
Silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I might teach.
Well, my theory is that what the great audience of younger people recognized in the film was our generation's sense of not being part of a generation older than we were and a little bit lost, which was just about everyone who didn't know they were going to become a doctor and hoped they weren't going to Vietnam. We all were Benjamin. Terman said, I bought this book because I am Benjamin, and Nichols said, I am making this film because I'm Benjamin.
Dustin Hoffman's performance played on this everyman quality of Benjamin. He walks like a robot, dresses anonymously, drinks beer and slumps in front of the TV. A blank sheet that Buck Henry's generation would understand.
My generation would understand it. My generation and my, yes, I'll use the word, my class. But it managed to go far beyond that, I think. He says, what did you study? And she says, after a pause, art, which is, of course, a stunner to him, as it should be to us. That, oh my God, there was an aesthetic here, an intellectual side, a creative bone in this graveyard. It's really interesting.
What was your major?
Benjamin, why are you asking me all these questions?
Because I'm interested, Mrs. Robinson. Well, what was your major subject at college?
Art.
Art? But I thought you... I guess you kind of lost interest in it over the years, then.
That whole sequence of them in bed together is virtually lifted from the book. And it's an interesting exercise in the difference between reading something and looking at something. Because in the middle of it, Mike said, well, you know, it's fine, but they're just lying there talking. We've got to do something. So Sam Osteen, the editor, came up with the idea of turning the lights off and on to give a kind of pacing to the scene that wasn't there just in the dialogue. And it was very nice. That's just a little lesson in filmmaking that I hope will profit you and all the rest of us.
Will you wait a minute, please? Mrs. Robinson, do you think we could say a few words to each other first this time?
I don't think we have much to say to each other.
As we've seen, Milos Forman started making films in communist Czechoslovakia, like this one, The Fireman's Ball, deadpan, documentary-like, making these firemen look clueless and funny. In America in the 70s, Forman had to adjust his approach remarkably little. We're in a mental institution. Forman again shoots with naturalistic light, close-ups to see the actors' faces.
I'm not getting upset, Miss Bilbo. It's just that I don't want anyone to try and slip me saltpeter. You know what I mean?
It's all right, Nurse Bilbo.
If Mr. McMurphy doesn't want to take his medication orally, I'm sure we can arrange that he can have it some other way.
Jack Nicholson isn't mentally ill, he's just pretending to be. Another film where the world of the story's upside down.
Give it to me.
Full activity when you go in.
After the... Robert Altman was as radical as Hopper, and a year after MASH, he released this film, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, another anti-Western. As in MASH, Altman's camera roams, the lenses are long, the colours are muted. Julie Christie is a savvy madam who helps a naive opportunist man to run a brothel. But they ultimately fail in their aims. Unlike the John Ford films, there are no heroes here, just characters lost in the snow, in Altman's low-contrast imagery, out of their depth and uncertain about the world.
Well, I live with a child of snow.
Visual uncertainty to match a 70s uncertainty about what American history even means. This man, Francis Coppola, started as a dissident. There was something of the Orson Welles about him. His film The Godfather is an assimilationist one, but its success allowed him to direct something more radical. His film The Conversation was about this, the new type of sound equipment. A professional surveillance expert is in his lair, surrounded by the new equipment that allows him to eavesdrop on things far away. He accidentally records a conversation between apparent lovers. He can't see them, but Coppola shows us them, filmed in long lens, the visual equivalent of the man's distant microphone. The man becomes obsessed with the mystery on the tape. In doing so, he almost has a breakdown.
He'd kill us if he got the chance.
Coppola's film was about getting so lost in the fragments of other people's behaviours that your own life dissolves. In 1970, Coppola met a passionate, nervy young filmmaker at the Sorrento Film Festival in Italy. Not nearly as radical as Hopper or Altman, nor as Wellesian as Coppola, Martin Scorsese, our fourth 70s dissident, became the most respected of them all. In a single phrase, he expressed more clearly than anyone the aims of New Hollywood. He said, "We were fighting to open up the form." Scorsese was brought up on these streets in New York City's Little Italy. He was often unwell as a child, so found himself observing the life of the streets rather than participating in them. His first great film, Mean Streets, is about these streets. Scorsese said of a scene like this, filmed in a church with tracking camera, the whole idea was to make a story of a modern saint in his own society, but his society happens to be gangsters.
That's all bullshit except the pain, right?
As if to prove his desire for sainthood, its main character holds his finger in a flame, confessing his sins.
There's no way you do that.
In 1976, Scorsese filmed a screenplay about a Vietnam veteran driving around New York in a taxi. Filmed in slow motion, the taxi glided through the steamy night like an iron coffin. The world of the story was New York's Hell's Kitchen, junkies, porno theaters. This world disgusted the taxi driver. The film was written by Paul Schrader, who drank heavily, like his main character, Travis Bickle, who lived in his car, whose self-obsession was festering like Bickle's.
The motivator behind Taxi Driver was existentialism. So the two things that I reread just before writing it were Nausea by Sartre and L'Étranger by Camus. And that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to do that character in an American context.
Bickle's world is one of booze and porn. He walks around in the blue light of dawn, finds it painful to be alive. Here, Bickle's making a phone call to a woman he's obsessed by.
You didn't get them. Couldn't I send them?
Scorsese has the camera track away from Bickle, almost in embarrassment. He later explained that it was too painful to watch the scene.
Okay. Can I call you again?
This is wholly
Tomorrow or
modern.
the next day? Okay. No, I'm gonna... Okay, yeah, sure, okay.
Its emotional wisdom is close to the way that Mitsuguchi kept his camera away from raw emotion, not showing his characters' faces. Taxi Driver was a huge success. The new director's storming of the Hollywood Citadel seemed to be easy. They were pushing on an open door. And so Scorsese, De Niro, and Schrader pushed harder. At this table in Musso and Frank's restaurant in Hollywood, where Charlie Chaplin and Douglas Fairbanks used to eat, De Niro told Scorsese that he'd be interested in acting in a film about a boxer called Jake LaMotta. The resulting film, Raging Bull, written by Schrader, was about this self-destructive man, a Catholic boxer on a downward slope who reaches rock bottom before finding redemption. The scene was shot documentary style, long lenses, flat lighting and staging. It was visually influenced by the documentary Scorsese had made about his parents, Italian-American. The same type of shot, sofa, table lamps and domesticity.
Why are you so far from me?
Okay.
Get closer.
The boxing scenes were from another stylistic universe. Slow motion shots like bloody statues of Christ in a Baroque cathedral 1 minute. Then fast-cutting, wide-angle lenses and tracking like Orson Welles the next.
Bull has taken a lot of punishment in this bout. Jake has cut around the lane.
Jeff, tell me why.
I could have been somebody instead of a bum, which is what I am. Let's face it. It was you, Charlie.
At the end, the boxer recites Marlon Brando's lines in On the Waterfront, the most reflective moment in the film.
Ready?
You got about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Need anything?
Nah.
You sure?
I'm sure.
Never before had such explicit Italian Catholicism been the theme of an American film. Ethnicity and the specifics of ghetto life were one of the things that romantic cinema had screened out. You could feel Scorsese's very nervous system in his films and his city's metabolic rate.
The existential dilemma, should I exist? And, the postmodern answer is, to put quotes around exist. It doesn't mean anything. What does it mean? And as a result, we've lived in a kind of mashup world progressively, where a lot of things that we thought were the standards, the artistic standards, a certain kind of harmony, a certain kind of balance, a certain kind of beauty, the concept of beauty. And once you get in that postmodern frame of mind, once you start talking about meta-cinema, there really there's no center anymore. And so it's just a collection, a pastiche.
When Paul Schrader came to direct, he was a dissident too. But his particular rebellion took the form of all things, a fascination with religious grace. Schrader's film American Gigolo is about a male prostitute floating through the world. 80s red lighting. His masterpiece, Light Sleeper, is about a drug dealer also floating, peeping at the world in nighttime blue. Each man is spiritually empty. In both films, Schrader wanted to show their rescue from this emptiness. How did he do this? His solution was astonishing. He borrowed this great ending from Robert Bresson's film Pickpocket, where a man in prison is visited by a woman, and somehow her touch represents the incursion of heavenly grace into the world.
It's taken me so long to come to you.
In American Gigolo, the male prostitute is also in prison and again finds grace through a woman in exactly the same way.
All our eyes have seen, all our arms embrace.
And in the ending of Light Sleeper, the drug dealer has a similar revelation, again shot with the exact same camera angles.
American Gigolo was a very dissimilar film to Pickpocket. This is all a film about superficial person and surfaces and glamour, and you know, kind of perversely, I took the ending of Pickpocket and put it on American Gigolo, even though I didn't think it was that kind of film. So it's really a kind of perverse, almost an in-joke, and because, you know, the reference doesn't really mean anything, really. And so then, some years later, I was writing another one of these one-character stories, and this one was about a middle-aged drug dealer, Light Sleeper. And I was writing that, and I said, now, this is the one I should have put the Pickpocket ending on. I put it on the wrong film. So I'll put it on this one. This is where it belongs. I did 4 films that are sort of alike, and they're double bookends. So there's Taxi Driver, which is bookended by Light Sleeper, and American Gigolo, which is bookended by The Walker. Taxi Driver and Light Sleeper is you have one's in the front seat, one's in the back seat. And Gigolo and Walker is one's in the closet and one's not. You know, frankly, I kind of miss, you know, the existential cinema, and I wish there could be more of it. On the other hand, sometimes you look at it and you say, oh, God, this feels old. You know, God, this feels old.
Hopper, Altman, Coppola, Scorsese, Schrader. 5 brilliant white male dissidents of Christian heritage trying to open up the form of American film in the heyday of the 70s. The story of the movies in the 70s was full of rebels, but then came this man, Charles Burnett, a different kind of outsider. Burnett made one of the greatest films of the 70s, Killer of Sheep, but even how he got into movies is revealing.
There were part of us who got into films as a reaction to some of what Hollywood was making, all the stereotypes and things like that, you know. We had debates about that all the time, discussions all the time about what is a black film and what are we supposed to, what is our responsibility, you know, things like that.
One of the founding films in America was this famously racist one, The Birth of a Nation. Here, black senators were portrayed as drunks. It took nearly 60 years before black filmmakers like Gordon Parks and Charles Burnett got to make good feature films. The delay was shameful. Even liberal places like this, UCLA's film school, played an ambiguous role in the emergence of black cinema in America.
UCLA didn't, in the film department, didn't show any black films at all, any African films or anything like that. All American films and European films and things like that, you know. Not from North Africa, any place. It was only until this person by the name, a teacher by the name of L.S.L. Taylor came in. And L.S.L. Taylor was the first black teacher, I think, in the film department at UCLA, and he was very radical and outspoken. And he introduced third world cinema at UCLA, and, you know, Latin American cinema, all this kind of stuff, you know. And then he brought in Osman Sembène and people like that, you know. And so we had to see in person, and then we screened African films, you know. That was the first time, and it was a mind-blowing experience, you know, things. And so at that point, it was very, you know, in the early 70s that I got a chance to experience, you know, African film.
Why was it mind-blowing?
It's like all those films, like Third World Cinema and everything, because they spoke to us. You know, it wasn't, I mean, it was like the same thing when I saw Ozu and people like that in Kurosawa. You saw all this propaganda about people, you know, and this myth that was created about it, as though they weren't human. And, you know, it wasn't until I saw these films that, you know, it's like you realize that your neighbor exists, that there's a person, you know, that you know, like you've been robbed of reality. Part of your reality has been, you know, distorted and compromised, and you've been brainwashed. People telling their stories outside this formula, you know, and like they were real people, live people, and stories that were, you know, about how do you live in post-colonial society and under race and stuff like that, you know, which in a way we were suffering under, you know, in a certain way, you know, and just daily life of a person like an Ozu and things like that, you know, and that just make drama out of that.
In 1977, here in Watson Compton in LA, Charles Burnett took these ideas and made a masterpiece, Killer of Sheep.
I had looked at a lot of photographic books and paintings and stuff like that. I was really aware of compositions from a lot of these photojournalist things, but I wanted to tell it from a kid's point of view, mostly. I didn't want it to look Hollywood at all, you know.
Burnett filmed in black and white, often shooting details of kids' play, and used great black music, like Paul Robeson here.
As a young kid, I saw things that I wasn't satisfied with, and particularly the school system and things like that, because I thought they just killed a lot of kids, you know, and the whole system. And I wanted to write about that and make films about that.
The children in the playground, the faces that I see, all races, all religions, that's America to me.
So the only thing I do is put a narrative together from all these incidents that I've seen and experienced, and let it comment on itself, you know. But I was looking at the poetic part of what I saw, you know, the oddities and the absurdities and things like that. But there were a lot of poetic moments in the community where I grew up in.
Where black consciousness was a belated, exciting new dissident force in American film of the 70s, another innovation came from a more surprising direction. As the first movie moguls were Jewish, and as some of the greatest directors, like Ernst Lubitsch and Billy Wilder, were Jewish, you'd think that Jewishness would be central to American film. But Jewish characters and situations were more likely to be found around the edges of stories. Like here, in The Shop Around the Corner.
On my word,
the woman is a central character, charming, white, Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Felix Bressart on the left, who fled the Nazis, is not the hero of the piece, but his logic and humour provide the film's beauty.
Then let's stop the whole thing. You see, I thought of giving it to my wife's uncle for Christmas.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Can't you give him something else?
Oh, that's not so easy. You see, I don't like him. I hate to spend a nickel on him.
And still, I must give him a present. So I thought, if I have to give him a present, at least give him something he won't enjoy. The box cost $2.29. That's a lot of money. But it's worth it to ruin my wife's uncle's Christmas.
But then, this man came along, Woody Allen. Here, he's Alvy in Annie Hall. He's an intellectual, explicitly Jewish character at the center of the frame, at the center of the film, talking directly to camera. He's an Ingmar Bergman fan and about as far away from Hollywood beefcake as you can get. Yet he falls in love with a Midwestern girl, Diane Keaton's Annie Hall.
I can't put it in the pot. I can't put a live thing in hot water.
What do you think we're going to do? Take it to the movies?
Here you go. Oh, good, Alvy. Oh, thank you.
Okay, it's in.
The joke was that New York Jewishness is alien to just about everywhere except New York itself.
Get it out. This thing's heavy.
In this scene, Annie and Alvy are trying to cook lobsters. Cooking isn't very New York, and boiling lobsters certainly isn't.
We should have gotten steaks, because they don't have legs. They don't run around.
The scene's a single shot. There's no cut. The kitchen light is hit by mistake. One of the funniest moments in American cinema.
One more, Ellie, please. One more thing.
Charlie Chaplin played the lead role in his films too, and Annie Hall is the offspring of Charlie Chaplin's City Lights. Chaplin is the butt of his own jokes too, but makes a blind girl see. Allen makes the woman believe in herself. He does this montage to show her magic moments. Both are Pygmalion myths, brilliant films that nonetheless reminded us of how few women were themselves making films in America. In the late 70s, Allen went from the freeform shooting of Annie Hall to the compositional rigor of films like this one, Manhattan. A city symphony, if ever there was one. Widescreen images in love with the built world. Again, Allen's Jewish character is at the center of the story. Hopper, Altman, Coppola, Scorsese, Schrader, Parks, Burnett, and Allen were all in some way against old-style Hollywood. They were about the modern truths, about people and places. An article in the New Yorker magazine said, "Our recent films have been about self-hatred. There's been no room for decency or nobility." But a third set of American filmmakers were less against nobility or Hollywood or romance. These were the assimilationists. Take this man, Peter Bogdanovich, passionate film historian, friend of Orson Welles and John Ford. There's no way he could be totally against the old guard. This movie shows how he mixed old and new. We're in an old Texan town. Young people are driving at night. Bogdanovich uses old movie style, black and white, conventional reverse angle editing. They meet Ben Johnson, a regular actor in old John Ford movies, who plays Sam the Lion, a decent, heroic man. Country music plays.
Need any money?
No, we got plenty.
Well, you better take some for some insurance. Take money below that border, it sort of melts sometimes.
Thanks, Sam.
And try not to drink too much of that buggy water.
At first look, this could be a John Ford Western like My Darling Clementine. But then look what happens.
Well, let's see what's left of the last verse.
This woman, played by Cloris Leachman, is agonizingly lonely. She's been having an affair with Timothy Bottoms, but here, at the end of the film, has found out that he's dumped her for the local beauty. He's too inarticulate even to apologize.
Never you mind, honey. Never you mind.
Bogdanovich and his creative partner, Polly Platt, have Leachman do the forgiving. Then a slow 16-second dissolve, as long as the longest dissolve that Orson Welles ever used. And we're tracking and panning in the town. A ghost town with all idealism gone. A rotten place to live. The camera pans around to show a closed-down movie theatre where romantic films once were shown. The American assimilationists weren't as interested in opening up the form as restoring its power by applying it to edgier, more thoughtful content. They worked in the clear light of the new day of 70s cinema. Their films were spatially clear, but tense. Almost all their central characters were male. Never more so than in the films of the assimilationist director of this scene from The Wild Bunch, Sam Peckinpah. Peckinpah took and stretched Sergio Leone's neo-realist idea of extending time to slow down a scene. Doing so revealed the scene's constituent agony and beauty. His beautiful widescreen film, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, shows how torn Peckinpah was by the mid-70s about American history. The film's set at the end of the 1800s. The Wild West has been commercialized. Idealism has long flowed down the river. Here, outlaw-turned-sheriff Pat Garrett sees a family drifting by. Pointlessly, inevitably, the father and Garrett end up pointing their guns at each other. The macho West, the beautiful West. Cattle barons have hired Pat Garrett to kill his former friend, the outlaw Billy the Kid. Both are part of the past, ghosts. When Garrett finally kills Billy, he quickly shoots himself in the mirror, something Peckinpah once did. It's as if Garrett couldn't face himself, the void within, the shame. Just before Garrett kills Billy, he meets this coffin maker, who's played by Peckinpah himself, in half light, as if he's been there all the time, like Garrett's conscience.
Go on, get it over with.
Peckinpah hated producers and was as temperamentally against the system as Erich von Stroheim was in Silent Days. Peckinpah was too romantic to detest the myth of the West, and the assimilationist director of our next film, Badlands, was too romantic to detest the myth of the outsider. A young man with James Dean hair and 50s denims. His young girlfriend, asleep like a child. He climbs a tree, drops her an egg. They're like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. But they play war games. It's like he's in Vietnam.
He gave me lectures on how a gun works, how to take it apart.
This actor, Martin Sheen, would later star in the most operatic Vietnam film, Apocalypse Now. These characters are even more damaged than James Dean. They're so needy, they're almost mentally ill. The film was made by one of the most reclusive figures in film history, Terrence Malick. Malick studied philosophy, and it shows. His follow-up to Badlands was this one, Days of Heaven. We're on a Texan estate, a golden world. The camera flows.
What are you talking about? It's not fair. Leave, you're fired.
Cinematographer Nestor Almendros attached the camera to his own body with a cantilevered brace called a Panaglide. This was the first time this was done. Panaglides would soon evolve into Steadicams, which gave a floating feeling to much of cinema of the 80s and since. One of the main characters is this migrant worker. Malick cuts between him and landscape shots. He's trying somehow to apprehend the infinite. Almendros, who had worked with Francois Truffaut, tried to capture the beautiful natural light of D.W. Griffith's films. Malick had key scenes shot after the sun has dipped below the horizon, but before its glowing light has died from the sky. This magic hour sometimes lasts only 20 minutes, so there's always a panic to capture it. To simulate a locust swarm, Malick in his DP dropped peanut shells from a helicopter whose rotor blades made them into a whirl. Then they reversed the shot so that the locusts appeared to swarm upwards. Actors and extras in such scenes had to walk backwards so that when the film was reversed, their action would appear normal. At the climax of the film, wheat fields go on fire. Only the light from the flames was used. The resulting images have amongst the shallowest focus of any in cinema history. The delicacy of this, the cave-like darkness, worked brilliantly with the film's mythic ambitions. It's only been recently revealed that Haskell Wexler shot much of Days of Heaven.
Actually, in the final film, about 46 minutes are my shooting. Terry is just a special, far out or far in person. Certain aspects that I know, he has sort of an intimate contact with nature, that life concept of connection to the earth and to people as well. And that's the way he writes, that's the way he thinks.
And he seems to think like D.W. Griffith too. Griffith said that cinema is the wind in the trees, and Malick loves to film wind too, its poetic properties. And in this film from Soviet director Andrei Tarkovsky, whose work has so much in common with Malick, wind seems to be nature coming alive, part of the story. Malick's only made a handful of films, but they are love letters to life, as if their screenplays were by philosophers like David Hume or Martin Heidegger. One of the greatest American films of the 70s to mix old techniques with new style was this movie, Cabaret. A clean-cut young man singing a melodic song. Could be an old-style Hollywood musical. Except musicals weren't usually shot in close-ups, and there are lots of them here. They tilt up as people stand, because we're in Nazi Germany. The faces become more impassioned. A shiver runs down our spine. The film showed the life and loves of Christopher Isherwood's character, Sally Bowles, in decadent Berlin in the 1930s. Cabaret's director, Bob Fosse, was old Hollywood, born of musical theatre parents and steeped in Broadway. He choreographed and directed using the best of the old techniques.
Alone in your room, come hear the music play.
This song is about living for the moment. Its performer, Liza Minnelli, daughter of Judy Garland, is a direct link to old school Hollywood, but the political messages and celebration of nonconformist sexuality are very 70s.
Life is a cabaret, old chum. Come to the cabaret.
That I cannot do.
Another assimilationist film from 1972 was even more immoral. Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather was the most successful upgrading of another 30s American genre, the gangster movie. Coppola had it shot like a Rembrandt painting. No trendy 70s long lenses, no helicopter shots. Gordon Willis, his cinematographer, lit Marlon Brando from overhead to create shadows in his eye sockets. Audiences couldn't see clearly the eyes of the dawn.
I understand.
This so-called north lighting was rare in American cinema and had not been used well since the days of Marlene Dietrich.
Had a good trade, made a good living, police protected you, and there were courts of law. You didn't need a friend like me. But now you come to me and you say, Don Corleone, give me justice.
The low lighting levels also meant that focus was shallow, constraining actors to minimal movements, internalizing their performance. Gangster pictures of the 30s were about the rise and fall of individuals, but The Godfather showed a network of relationships. Robert Towne contributed to its screenplay.
Francis called me one day and said, "Jason, I don't have the scene between the two leads in my movie." Then it fell to me to decide what the nature of that scene would or should be. So I had something structural to do in that. Yeah, yes. I mean, in the sense of the way that I placed it, what it was about.
But when it was your time that you would be the one to hold the strings. Senator Corleone, Governor Corleone, something.
Another peasant of Anta.
This wasn't enough time, Michael. Wasn't enough time.
We'll get there, Pop. We'll get there.
Now listen, whoever comes to you with this Barzini meeting, he's the traitor. Don't forget that.
Over dinner one day during the shooting of The Godfather, its producer, Robert Evans, commissioned another film about the lust for power, our final assimilationist movie of the 70s. Its style was old Hollywood, film noir almost, but somehow baking in the clear light of the 70s day. It would be based on the true story of how the head of Los Angeles' Department of Water and Power, William Mulholland, redirected water from the Owens Valley, depriving farmers of water in order to expand LA and fill its swimming pools. A rape of the land.
Los Angeles has a kind of, and particularly in those days, a lazy, sun-soaked, dreamy quality to it, you know, and left for him to discover the dark shadows in this sunny place. And the crime was right in front of his eyes every time he turned on a spigot.
Robert Towne's screenplay became Chinatown. It was shot widescreen, had muted 30s colour, and starred Jack Nicholson as a puzzled private eye driving around LA, who unknowingly stumbles into the appalling story of the theft of the water.
I think that the sunny quality there is because the corruption is so pervasive, so all-encompassing. It's not just one criminal, it's not just one Maltese fault. It's everywhere. And every really good detective story that you find satisfying always has that element in it. Bridget O'Shaughnessy in The Maltese Vault. Mr. Spade, I'm desperate, I need your help. And the killer is right in front of his eyes from the very beginning. It's her. But it takes him the entire exploration for him to discover what he knew all along and didn't know he knew, which was the killer. In the case of Oedipus, it's literal.
Help me, Mr. Spade. I need help so badly. I've no right to ask you. I know I haven't, but I do ask you. Help me.
You won't need much of anybody's help. You're good. It's chiefly your eyes, I think, and that throb you get in your voice when you say things like, "Be generous, Mr. Spade."
I deserve that. But the lie was in the way I said it. Not at all in what I said. It's my own fault if you can't believe me now.
Now you are dangerous. Well, I'm afraid
the director of The Maltese Falcon, John Huston, played the businessman who steals the water and rapes his daughter in Town's screenplay.
It was a time before World War II. It was a time when the full extent of the possibilities of human evil haven't occurred to him. Most of them fall along the lines of the usual graft, petty corruption. A man who would be willing to violate his daughter, that's just not in his thinking. The presence of evil is kind of brilliantly rendered by both Roman and John Huston. That kind of false bonhomie and pleasantness. You know, he said, I've still got a few teeth in my head and a few friends in town, he says.
My daughter's a very jealous woman. I didn't want her to find out about the girl.
How did you find out?
I still got a few teeth left in my head and a few friends in town.
Okay.
Because it goes beyond mere greed. What do you hope to get that you don't already have? And Huston's answer, I think, is revealing the future, Mr. Gibbs. The future.
I just want to know what you're worth. Over 10 million?
Oh, my, yes.
Why are you doing it? How much better can you eat? What can you buy that you can't already afford?
The future, Mr. Gitz. The future. Now, where's the girl? I want the only daughter I've got left. As you found out, Evelyn was lost to me a long time ago.
Who do you blame for that, her?
The film was directed by Roman Polanski. 3 years earlier, Polanski's wife and unborn child and friends had been horrifically murdered by Charles Manson's gang of deluded hippies. Polanski's early life had been tragic, but the murders seemed to strip him of any lingering delusions about people. Polanski's life had had far too great an amplitude to even countenance the shallow pleasures of escapist romantic cinema. Nor had he any time for the fleeting, impressionistic lightness of Jules and Jim by Truffaut, for example. He had Chinatown filmed with wide-angle lenses, bright lights, and precise framing, like an MGM musical almost, except that the movie was about rape, incest, power, and greed. Town wrote an ending with some hope, but Polanski made it much darker. In his version, Huston's daughter, who had a child by him, is shot through the eye. We're in proper film noir territory in this ending. A car horn creates a sense of panic. a handheld swish pan to reveal the scene of the atrocity.
Gotta call a captain. Get an ambulance. Turn them loose. Turn them all loose. Lord.
Town called this tragic ending the tunnel at the end of the light. Chinatown was a high point in American film of its time. New American cinema was full of mockery and stylistically bold. It was old school, laced with new truths. It felt like the best movie party to be at in the 70s. But there were other parties around the world that were just as exciting, radical, and self-possessed.